Welcome to the Book Club Live. I'm Jenny Snow, and today we have an awesome author interview with multi-award-winning suspense novelist Brandilyn Collins. And if you're new to the show, when we do an author interview, it's like we're going to have a book club with Brandilyn, and she's going to answer all the questions that you would answer in your book club at home, only Brandilyn gets to answer them about her own book.
Okay.
And also, I will tell you a little bit how I know Brandilyn, because I always love that as a listener when I watch shows, just how did y'all meet and all of that, and then we'll get right into the book. So Brandilyn,
Yes.
I first saw you when I was on Facebook, and I saw your yearly gathering with you and Francine Rivers, Tricia Goyer, Tamara Alexander, and a whole lot of A-list authors. And I saw a picture of you. You said that, or there was a post that said Robin Lee Hatcher was cold and she needed a scarf, and so you were giving her her scarf.
Putting a scarf around her neck, yeah.
And that just made me laugh, and I was like, I'm going to check out her book.
Yes, that's a hostess in me.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I went to the library and checked out Violet Dawn.
Yes.
And let me tell you, seatbelt suspense is right. Yeah, all the reviewers, I loved it. So I cannot recommend Violet Dawn highly enough. It's the first of a series on Canner Lake. And I don't even want to give much away, but just imagine yourself in the middle of the night in a hot tub, and then boom, the story starts. So I loved that book. Moved right on to, I got this from the library, but I listened on Audible, Eyes of Elisha, and me and my friend Carrie, we debate over which one was better, because they were both awesome. Be careful if you're listening. My husband has been known to walk into the kitchen and I scream. It's so good.
Okay.
And then I also loved your YA. In fact, I'm going to do a review on this whenever I get to it. But Always Watching is a YA suspense, and just really good. You're amazing.
Thank
I
you.
love
That's
you.
the first of a series of
Yes.
3. Yeah.
Yes, the first of
The
3.
Rain Tour series.
And they are also, I believe, on Audible, correct?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, they might be.
Maybe.
I'll put the link.
Maybe the publisher did that. I
Okay.
don't know.
I'll put a link to these to all of the ones that we mention in the show notes. But and so I loved you so much, and y'all know that I'm also a writer, small time published, but high hopes of being a novelist one day. So I attended your fantastic fiction writers retreat, and it was lovely and wonderful and beautiful.
Yeah.
So, but the book we're going to talk about today is your most recent, Plummet, and this was just as good as the rest. It's fast-paced, horrific.
Yes, pretty horrific.
For the character. And so I'm just really interested to hear it just had so many book club types of questions that I would love to get with my book club, and whoever felt comfortable would answer those questions. And so I'm going to ask you a couple of them.
Okay.
So in Plummet, the main character is in a situation that is suspenseful, freaky, and scary. I mean, totally freaky. You want to tell just a little back cover copy of just a little bit about the book?
In the first chapter, I believe in starting my books off with a bang in the first chapter, and then we're off and running, right? So in the first chapter, Kara is in a new job. She's a mother in her maybe late 30s. New job, new little town, working for the king of the town, basically. Mr. Great Guy, rich guy, gives his money to the poor, all these wonderful things. She got a job working in his office for him. And he's in his office, door closed, arguing with some woman who's in there. And then he comes out and says, Kara, you need to come into my office with me. And then he says, you know, my last meeting didn't go so well. And Kara is left to pick up the pieces of what happened in that office. Yes. And that's all I'm going to say.
And yeah. So that's all we'll say.
Yeah.
But
if you can get through to page 2, you're off and running, okay?
So can you tell about a time in your real life that was scary, freaky, suspenseful?
Okay. So years ago, we were in Kauai. We went to this slippery slide that only the locals knew about, basically, pretty much. It's not in the tourist books. And you drive there, you drive through cornfields, and there's absolutely nothing around you. You drive, and we had to have these exact directions of where to go. So you were like 6 miles from town, okay, in the middle of nowhere. And then you got to hike in a mile. So we hiked in, we enjoyed the slippery, it's a natural slippery slide. We hiked back out. And then we discovered that the other person that we came with had left early and left with our rental car keys.
Oh no.
And this is before cell phones.
Okay.
No, it's cell phone. So
Wow.
we're stuck. So another young couple had come and gone down to the path to go to the slippery slide, and they were already down there, but we were stuck. I was stuck with a bunch of people because we'd had a big van kind of thing. And then two rough-looking Hawaiian men show up, and they have rough-looking dogs, and they have machetes,
Oh my goodness.
and they're like
Oh wow.
so long.
Yeah.
And we feel like we're sitting ducks, right?
Yeah.
So the suspense writer in me always thinks the worst, right? Because that's what happens in my
Yes.
book. So I put on this brave front, and I kind of go after them really kind of like, hey, your dogs are scaring our children, call them off. Like, I'm not going to be intimidated, you know, and inside I'm just like.
So you had your kids with you right there.
Well, what happened, our kids were there. My
wow.
husband had left to walk the 6 miles into town to find the nearest Hertz. So I don't even have my husband there.
Wow.
And the other man that's there was a gymnast, and he's about this high. He wasn't going to help us, okay? So I had this great idea. I'm going to run down. I was a jogger, so running in a mile down and a mile back was nothing to me. So I ran down the path to ask this young couple who had already gone down the path if I could borrow their rental car keys, drive their car into town, come, go to the Hertz rental place, get keys for our car somehow, come back, pick up my husband who was walking down this dusty road. And so I jogged down that path and tell them the story, and they don't even know me. They're total strangers. And the guy pulls out his keys and throws them to me. And his wife looks at him like,
What are you doing?
you have just stranded us in the middle of nowhere with this crazy story, right?
Right.
So I run back, I jump in their car, I hightail it to town, pick up Mark, try to figure out when I come back, I find out from the people who had stayed there, those two Hawaiian guys had gone down the path to the slippery slide. And by the time they got to the slippery slide, with that young couple stranded there, their machetes were bloody.
Oh my goodness gracious.
So the young couple thinks we've all been killed.
Oh my goodness.
And now they're stranded because I had their car keys, I took off in their car, everybody else left has been killed.
Oh my goodness.
And
So why were they bloody?
I don't know.
Were they hunting?
What
or
did
something?
they do? I don't know. But anyway, when that young couple came back and found us alive, they were just like shaking. And when it was all over, when we had our car back and they had their car keys back, they said, this is our first day on this island.
Wow.
And if we see you people again, we're driving right on by.
You're on your own next
You're
time.
on your own.
Well, that is pretty freaky.
That's pretty
Yeah,
freaky.
That's pretty freaky.
And it's all true. All
Wow.
true.
Well, I believe it. I believe it. Everybody has a story. Okay, well, next question. And this one's a quote, and I'm going to fix our thing here. Here we go. Okay. So it's a scary story, but there's also a lot of heart and real issues in it
Yeah.
other than life and death.
Yeah.
So this is her daughter, who's
13.
13,
Yeah.
okay. So here's a quote. The way those girls laughed at her every time she walked past them, called her Miss Piggy. Her cheeks would get all hot and she'd start to sweat. She wished she could just be a little ant and crawl down in a crack somewhere. So I just want to ask you, have you or someone you love ever experienced bullying?
The bullying.
And
yeah.
then how did you get through it? And what's the key to confidence? Because so many, it's such a prevalent problem that people have to deal with.
It is so hard. You know, a 13-year-old girl, that's a horrible time of
Right.
life, really. And so, yeah, bullying is one of the issues in this book. I did see it happen to my daughter when she was 13. And she's this beautiful girl, and she'd had these friends that she grew up with in her in her school, and all of a sudden, at age 13, they just turned on her. I don't know why. They were mean, they were vicious, I heard it. And I mean, it was so bad, I wanted to take her out of school.
Yeah.
I felt so bad for her. And we just had to have a lot of times of talking through it. But you know, and she's turning 30 next month. She's good now. But you know, those things, they haven't left her.
Yeah.
Those things, those barbs that are given to you, particularly about your weight. And she wasn't even, she was like the girl in my book. She wasn't overweight at all. She just wasn't super skinny.
Right.
So these girls who were super skinny, suddenly, you know, you're fat.
Right.
And what that does to the body image of a young girl, it's hard. I have a 4-year-old granddaughter now. I know all 4-year-old girls are beautiful, but this girl is beautiful.
I've seen her Facebook.
She's got these long, curly, blonde hair, and just this gorgeous girl. And so everybody tells her how beautiful she is. And I do too, but I talk to her about, you know what real beauty is.
Yeah.
You know, real beauty is inside you, and it's how you treat people, and that makes you far more beautiful than what's on the outside. And I don't think 4 years old is too young to start having those conversations.
No, I do the same with my daughter, you know. In fact, I was telling her, you know, anyways, I was trying to tell her, you know, yes, you're pretty, but the most beautiful thing about you is your kind heart.
Yes.
And I guess she was a little too young to totally get it, because she goes, Mom, you have kind hair. But somehow it's getting in there.
But she'll grow up, you know, it's not wrong for kids to hear the words before they fully comprehend them.
Yes,
and then
I
as
agree.
they grow into understanding of those words, they're already within them.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, like you said, the most magazine, geometrically, facially, spatialed person can be very ugly if they're treating everybody ugly. You know, it truly is.
That's right.
From inward
and besides,
out.
that's fake anyway. That's all airbrushed. Don't believe it.
Yes.
Don't believe it.
Okay. So next question. Would blank ever be happy here? That's a quote from the book. So I wanted to know, what makes you happy, and what does it take to be happy?
What makes me so happy these days is knowing that I am totally in the will of God. I just, my purpose, my life, I had a lot of rough edges. He's honed them off. I got more to go. I don't think we ever lose them, you know, on this earth. But to be really walking with him daily and doing what he wants me to do,
there's no better feeling.
No, that's it. And I look around me at people who are hurting in the world, who's hurting, people that I know, people that I don't know. And it's like was said to us yesterday here at the conference, you know, the answer is Christ crucified. That's it. The answer to everything is Christ crucified. And so, yes, walking with him, amen.
No matter how great your marriage is going, your friends, you're going to have that something's missing feeling if you don't have Jesus. Okay, next question. And this goes a little bit along the lines of one of the other ones. Page 106. Riley was so close to having new, real friends. This had to work. Please, God. One thing was for sure. She'd do anything to make that happen and to make everyone keep liking her. So what have you learned about real friends and about people pleasing? Because we all want real friends, but we all feel those unspoken pressures to make sure you're pleasing them, you know, or people share their desires. And so what makes a true friend, and what have you learned about true friendships versus just relationships?
I often think the best way to make a friend is to give to that person. You know, if you come to a friendship thinking, what do I get out of it? What do you want to take? But if you're focused on the other person, what does that person need? Pouring into that person. Now, granted, there are some people who are just only takers, and that's going to be draining after a while. You can kind of figure that out after a while. But a true friendship is give and take, and full trust, full respect of each other, willing to understand each other's differences and pray with each other. And you know, I have a prayer partner that I've had, oh goodness, I'd say 27 years now.
Wow.
And when we left California, moved to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, a few years later, she just happened to move there too, because she had family there. So we're back praying again. And that is an awesome thing.
Yeah.
When you know that kind of history with each other, and
Yeah.
she probably knows me like, no one else
Right.
does. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I also think one thing for me in my relationships is being able to ask those questions. Did I offend you?
Oh, yeah.
Or, hey, I really don't want to do, I just can't do that. Is that, are you going to be okay with that? And then just that give and take that, oh yeah, I totally get that and understand, and being willing to take the risk of, that hurt my feelings.
Yes, and it's so important. If the other person has offended you, please go tell them. I had this happen very recently to me. A friend came to me and said, for years I just felt that you treated me a certain way and that you didn't want to be with me, and I just, what?
Yeah.
That never entered my brain.
Right.
But her perception, because of her issues, was this.
Right.
And I was so grateful that she came to me so I could say, I'm so sorry that I did anything, and allow me to fix it.
Right.
If I hadn't been allowed to fix it, if I hadn't been told this, I would never know.
You'd still be friends, but just not as close
But
as you
there
could
would have been
been
something between us that I never knew existed. And
Yeah.
now we can go on with our friendship at a whole new level. And
Yeah.
it made me feel so bad that she felt so bad for so many years because she didn't tell me.
Right.
And I didn't have the opportunity to fix it, and I had no idea she felt
Yeah.
that way. None.
That's the separator between friends and good friends.
Yeah.
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 I think so. Okay, I love your answers. Next question. So this novel explores the depth of love, commitment, and sometimes anguish a mom can have over her daughter, and the lengths she will go to try to protect her and help her, and how even with the best intentions, sometimes as moms fail so miserably.
Yeah.
So, and I know with me and some of my friends, we talk about, they're picking up my bad habits. So what have you learned about, and there was a quote in there that kind of made me laugh that goes with this theme. It's the mom. I could stay by her side, mother her, be there throughout all her joys and hurts, be her role model. Don't laugh. I know.
Don't laugh, I know.
Like, I'm not going to be the role model.
Yeah.
Don't do what I do.
Yeah.
So what have you learned about passing on the good stuff to our children, but hopefully not passing on our negative traits?
Oh boy, I just talk really openly with my kids, whether they're walking with the Lord at the time or not. I'm very honest with them, and I let them know what God's doing in my life, so they know that Jesus is very important to me. And I listen to them. My kids, they call me, my daughter calls me just about every day, and she's almost 30 now, and we talk a lot, and I talk to my son a lot, and my husband goes out with my son because he lives near us once a week for breakfast, and it's just pouring into their lives, and where are you at, and imparting the wisdom that they want to hear from you. Sometimes you look at things and think, but you really can't, it is their life. But there's certainly times to pour that wisdom into them. As far as the book goes, Plummet, yes, I kill people in my books, okay? So just give me that. But I always like these deeper issues and so Plummet has a number of deep issues. One is that Kara has been abused, and she's come out of an abusive marriage following an abusive childhood, and so all her issues with men have been abuse, and she's very proud that she's pulled out of that. She's moved to this small town, managed to get her own job with her daughter and get her daughter out of this abusive household, but Kara is one step away from poverty. She can't lose the job.
Right.
And now she's seeing that her daughter, who was bullied where she was before, is being bullied now. And so here the daughter has learned that victim mentality from watching her mother be bullied, in a sense.
Right.
And so the mom, what she wants more than anything is to keep this job because she has to support them, and to model for her daughter that you can overcome your victimhood. You don't have to be a victim forever. You can stand up, move out of it, and move into a meaningful life. And this is what she wants to model for her daughter. And the irony that sets up for the book is that this quote, wonderful boss of hers that makes Kara do this terrible thing, then Kara now has this lie, and Kara is now under victimhood from now her boss. And so while she's modeling for her child, oh, I'm gaining strength, and here's how you should be strong to put up with this bullying, to get out of the bullying, Kara is just falling more into victimhood than ever. So it sets up this whole irony and of deceit of what she's, and that's why when she says, don't laugh when I say I'm a role model, she knows she's not doing well. But she's trying to hide all that from her daughter, and in the end, that's just not going to work.
Yeah. And I like what you said about sharing our faults and, oh, I messed up there, I was wrong to do that, and that just means so much. And that kind of happens in the book, after a while, and I just wonder if you're all like, well, duh, she should just go to the police, but it's more complicated than that.
What if you can't?
So, yes.
Just saying.
Yes.
What if you can't?
Right. Okay, 2 more questions. Oh, and did I mention we're doing a giveaway? I always forget to do that. So I'm going to give away a copy of Plummet, and if you'd like to enter the drawing, just go to the show notes. I usually just, just go to the show notes. The link will be there to enter. And if you're enjoying the show, you can click the like and let us know, and consider subscribing if you haven't already.
You could click love if you're really into it.
Well, except for on YouTube, it's just a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Oh, that's no fun.
I will share this on Facebook, and definitely you can give us some love there.
Alrighty then.
So. Okay, so the main character and her daughter are seeking a fresh start. Have you ever needed a reset? And what did you do to get a reset? What's your advice for somebody who's just like, I need to start over? And have you ever been in that position, and what did you do?
I was in that position, it's been a long time now, 2008. 2008 is when I moved from being a nominal Christian to really having a mountaintop experience at a prayer meeting that night and totally giving my heart over to Jesus and just being flooded with His Spirit. I literally walked out of that room seeing the world differently. So that's step 1. You need a reset. Where are you with Jesus? Have you given Him everything? Or maybe He's in part of your life. Sometimes we let Jesus into our lives. It's like inviting a guest in. Oh, you can go into this room, this room, this room, this room.
Right.
But you can't go to that one.
Yeah.
That door's locked.
Right.
And we tend to do that with Jesus when we really look at ourselves, have I left Him out of a room? So that's definitely step 1. And from there on, it's walking with Him and getting accountability partners and speaking where you want to be. Our negative words in our own voice is a really, really negative thing.
Right.
We believe our own voices. So don't go around saying, I can't.
Right.
This is, those negative words, they don't help.
Yeah.
They're not helpful.
Yeah. And the Bible talks about that too, and Proverbs especially is one of them. Just your words are so important.
The words are important to yourself as well as other people.
Yes, that's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So if you wouldn't want your daughter saying it about herself, don't say it about yourself.
Yeah.
And if it's not true, don't say it.
Yeah.
And if it is true, ask the Lord for help.
Still don't say it. Just go to the Lord to fix it.
Just say, Lord, help me with this. I'm trusting you to help me with this.
Right.
Okay. So last question before we wrap up. So it's a suspense novel. There's death, and death comes to us all. And so death is imminent in your novel. But in real life, what is one thing that you're glad you've accomplished in your time on this earth? And what is one thing still on the table that you would like to come to see pass before you go?
The thing that I and Mark, my husband, are most proud of is that we have modeled for our children what it is to be in a biblical marriage. Mark and I have this thing, and we've been married 38 years now. We serve God first, and then we serve each other. And so that's the foundation. We're always looking how to serve each other. And that works. And when Amberly, my daughter, was 13, we were laying out one night in our backyard looking at all the stars, and she was in love for the first time at age 13. And she's gazing at the stars, and she says, out of nowhere, when I grow up, I want to have a marriage just like you and Daddy. And I thought, oh, if I have done nothing else in my life, we've done that.
Yeah.
And then we have a framed card that she gave to her dad on Father's Day one year in our kitchen. And her letter to him in that card is about how, it says how, the card says, I looked for a card that, something about to say how wonderful you are, but how I learned most from you is how I watched you love my mother.
That is so
Oh,
sweet.
isn't that
so
awful?
Sweet, Brandilyn.
Isn't that awfully wonderful? It's just so wonderful. Even the person framing it cried as she framed
Yeah.
it when I picked it up. So it's this thought of, what are we leaving our children?
Yeah.
Are we modeling for our children?
Right.
Yeah, and now what do I want to do next? I want to model for my grandchildren.
Yeah.
They're out there in this very dark world. This very dark world.
Right.
And you just got to start modeling for them from day one.
Yeah.
You know, who they are in Christ and how God loves them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good question to ask yourself when you're in an argument with your husband or in your relationship with your husband. Am I treating my husband the way I want my future daughter-in-laws to treat my son?
Yeah.
Am I, that
Right,
just
exactly.
really takes you back
that
and,
works.
oh, you know what, I can rephrase this.
Yeah, that can work.
I can calm down a little. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Brandilyn, you are wonderful.
Thank you.
For taking your time out of the American Christian Fiction Writers Conference where you were
Yes,
emceeing and
yes,
teaching
yes.
and doing a million things
Yeah.
for
It
us.
was great.
So thank
it was
you
great,
so much.
and I love having Jenny in my fantastic fiction retreat.
Yes, it was wonderful. I highly recommend.
She's always uplifting and encouraging and a wonderful gal. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Yes.
One little story that has nothing to do with anything, but
Okay.
so funny to me.
Okay.
So one time the ACFW conference was in Dallas, and I offered Brandilyn a ride from the airport. I was like, "Oh, I live right by the airport."
Right.
You helped me grow up because I wanted to give you a ride, but I hadn't been to the airport. So I drove back and forth to the airport like 6 times, which helped me as I started to fly and go places. But just a funny little story. So I'm a big kid now.
Yes,
Thank you, Brandilyn.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
And to all of you, happy reading.
Happy
Don't forget
reading.
to subscribe and enter the drawing. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.